All right, so I'm gonna be packing up something here, but at the same time talking to you guys and getting this protected. So last night got done playing, which is supposed to be considered the final part to Life is Strange, right? Life is Strange Reunion. Life is Strange Double Exposure, I enjoyed. Life is Strange Reunion, I enjoyed, right? Now, they say Reunion is supposed to be it for Max and Chloe's story, right? I don't think it is. Every time, that we hear about any character from any, franchise, it can be from a show, a movie, or a game. We know that these characters, in some way, come back, right? We know this. For example, in the Spider-Man franchise, right? Spider-Man 2 was supposed to be closing of Peter Parker's story a bit, but we know based off the ending, that's not the case. So, I think we're going to get his appearance again in Miles Morales 2 if we get that, because there's still a lot of story. There's still a lot of story. I feel like with the Life is Strange franchise right now, right? And for me, I feel like, they're hopefully we could be getting something with our characters who we have met, because now in Life is Strange Reunion, right? In Life is Strange Reunion, we ended up finding out after the events of Life is Strange Double Exposure that two timelines are now converged, right? Or merged, if you will. So now that we're at this point where now we can bring back people from the dead, pretty much, that means once you go into Reunion, you find out that Arcadia Bay's back. All the people that have allegedly got wiped out are back. That means our main villains, right, are back. Now, my thing is going to end up being this, right? My thing is now going to be this. Is Deck 9 going to be really going anywhere within this Life is Strange universe now that all of a sudden, we have people now coming back, and timelines have been, I guess you can say, rewritten, right? Rewritten. And my thing is going to be definitely this, right? This is a missed opportunity for Deck 9, because let's take a look at who we were all introduced to when it comes to the world, or the mysterious world of the Void, the entity known as the Void. We hear about a swirl, we hear about a vortex, we hear about a void in the OG Life is Strange, right? Which was in 2014. But you go back roughly 26 years before that, in 95, from the game Lost Records Bloom and Rage, which is in the same universe as Life is Strange, because it is made by the same company too. That has been confirmed. Which takes place in Michigan, right? With Swan and Kat, right? And her friends. So we know now that it's in the same universe. We get introduced to this paranormal, if you will, abilities, powers in 95, but through a camcorder. We know that the consequences with using, right, within using the powers or using the void means you got to lose people, right? Means you got to make some sacrifices, which we know. We know that Swan at the end of Lost Records Bloom and Rage, right? We know that she ends up going back to the spot, right? Where the cabin burnt down, where the void is. It opens up to her. We know that we're eventually going to get a part 2 where she's going to want to save Kat. Now, you go from there, and then you go into Life is Strange 2, right? We get references, we get Arcadia Bay if you choose to save it or destroy it. And we get the Diaz brothers, Sean and Daniel. Now, Sean and Daniel, we know there's a bit of a time skip there, right? Which the last part of the timeline is in 016, if I remember correctly, right? So my thing is this. Now, we know what happened to their dad, right? We know what happened to him. So now, again, with the timelines being emerged and people whom we lost in the OG sacred timeline are now back to life. So where does that leave them now? Because what was the point of introducing them if you're not going to come back to them, right? So where does that leave them now, down at their dad's back? Are they back in Ohio? Or are they still in Mexico? What about their mother? What about their mother? What was the whole point of putting Sean through everything just to help his brother, Daniel? What was the point of all that? What was the point of going through that journey with them, right? Then you go into 2019 with True Colors, which is my least favorite. And what was the point of really being introduced, knowing that one, we do find out about more survivors with the storm, Steph, right, and her friend, one that plays Dungeons and Dragons, I forget his name. We play with her DLC. We find out that the little brother, his brother died, right? We know when we get introduced to Alex and her brother Gabe dies. But now, okay, we know that their father dies in that story. But now, with the timelines being emerged, right? Are they still there in Colorado Springs? Is Steph with her group? Or is she, where is she, right? We don't know now. That means, though, the father of Alex Chen and Gabe is back, and Gabe is back. So, again, what was the point of introducing them if you're not going to go back to them? The same thing now when it comes to also Chris from Life is Strange 2, his DLC, Captain Spirit. So, again, we're introduced now to all these main antagonists. Now, this is where I think Deck 9 might be actually going now. So, we get introduced to the first time the void became a thing of the, the void, right? The world of the void. We're learning and knowing that it's a place that takes and gives. We know that it's between hell and purgatory, right? We know that it can also give back and rebirth. However, we know that there are consequences. We learn this. We learn a majority now of it where it came from, which was in Michigan of 95, right? Which was in Michigan of 95. We get back introduced to that now in 2013, right? In 2013, if you want to go 2013, 2012 to Life is Strange Before the Storm. Now, eventually people theorized maybe Rachel Amber had some type of power. But never got a chance to explore it. Which means she's now brought back to life, which equals to this question, right? Just like Chloe's dad. Is Rachel an antagonist? Either good or bad these days? It is one that is 100%, I could say, hard to say. We don't know. Now, Max comes back 2014, 2015, right? Now we get introduced to the OG timeline, right? The thing that started it all, right? But not really. Thing is with Max, she doesn't come from a broken household. But why give Max these time abilities, right? Or why give Rachel time abilities? Because neither of them come from broken households. Now we know Rachel's mother is a dope fiend. We know that, right? But why those two? Now we go into part 2. We know Sean and Daniel come from a broken household, right? We know this. We know their background. We know their story. We know their mother. But why give Daniel these powers? Why? And not Sean? Then what is the point, again, when merging the timelines now in the last game or so, knowing that now their dad's brought back? Then we go into Colorado Springs with, again, Alex, right? Everything that unfolded there. So that means now her brother's back, her father's back. With everything going on, right? Everything going on. We get introduced to somebody else with powers. And Life is Strange, double exposure. Sophie. Now, again, I don't think this is going to be the last that we see of Max and Chloe. We heard about Sophie going on a trip to find other people. I believe she found other people. They're just leaving that part out purposely. I think she may have ran into, and I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the closest, because what state are they in? Connecticut, right? Within New York. So they're going down this way. So since the timelines are merged, I think Indiana might be a bit close from there, in the Midwest area. Ran into Sean and Daniel, right? I think from there she could have went to Colorado Springs. She could have passed through there, right? Which means she probably ran into Alex Chen. And she probably may have met Steph, right? Which means she also met Gabe. She probably even met their father, just like she probably met Sean and Daniel's father, perhaps. Now, you go to the a bit of the West Coast area, I guess you can say, the ocean front, where Arcadia Bay, right? In that Midwest region, or South Pacific region, give or take. She goes through Arcadia Bay, there's a huge chance she wanted to see Blackwell, which means she probably ran into Rachel Lambert, Frank, Joyce, maybe Chloe's birth father or stepdad. We don't know right now. Now, we know Swan from, and her friends from Lost Records, Boom and Rage. We know Swan is in Canada. There's a good chance, depending on where we're at, maybe Swan and Kat chose to stay in Michigan. Maybe there's a good chance maybe Sophie ran into them. But now, she's not saying, so we will never know. But I think now that the timelines are merged, I think we're gonna get, when it comes to our antagonists who we met, I think we're gonna get this X-Men Justice League / Avengers Assemble sort of deal. So I think, depending on how you played each game, the antagonists are people who are going to be there. So we're going to get probably Swan and Kat, right, as our good guys. I think we're going to get a lot more information when they share their story and say, look, this is how the Void started. This is what it is. This is the consequences when using it. This is what comes with it. And then from there, we go to Life is Strange Before the Storm. Problem is, we're not going to get Rachel Lambert as a good guy. Matter of fact, I think we're going to get her as a villain. We're going to put her over there. But then it goes into Max and Chloe. Max and Chloe and her dad, her stepdad, and her birth father, right? We're going to get them as a good guy. We're going to get Jefferson and I think his name's Damien. Yeah, Damien Merrick is probably back. And Prescott, the Prescott kid, we're going to get them as villains. Now, people say, well, what about Frank? Frank is in between. He's not bad, but he's not good. But I can see him being on the side of Max and Chloe, which is going to give Rachel Lambert a little bit more reason to start hating and to be a villain, right? Now, we go to Life is Strange 2. Sean and Daniel. To me, I always felt like Daniel was in the makings of a villain. So I can see Daniel being bad, but I can see Sean being good. The mother being good. The dad being good. Right? Now, the girl, his best friend, it's hard to say with that. I don't know. So I'm actually going to leave her out of the equation. Now, the girl that he does end up with, I can see her being part of the good team. Their main antagonist villains, maybe the racist gas station guy, but definitely I can see it being the cult mother from the church and the father, right? Now, we go to Life is Strange True Colors. So, Alex Chen, Steph, Gabe, I can see being part of the good guys. Their father, I can see them staying out of it. We really have no reason for him to be in this. But we can see Jed. We can see maybe the woman from Typhon being part of the group of the villains. And I think our villains are going to be like the Sinister Six team. Now we get to Life is Strange Reunion. Or no, we get to Life is Strange Double Exposure. Right? Now, so the people who we're really introduced to, and it's, to me, we're going to have Yaman, Gwen, right? Lynn as well. B, I can see them along with Lucas, being part of the villains. And there's going to be quite there a lot. Now, in my playthrough, we ended up losing Loretta. I didn't really care for her, but knowing that the fact that we couldn't save her, I thought we did. I'm like, wow, like that actually hit me to a degree. I'm like, man. But we know we lost some people. So we lost Lynn. So I got to take him out, right? Lucas, lost him. No, actually, I don't think we did lose Lucas. I can't remember. We lost a little bit of people. But I see Lucas, again, Yaman, the Gwen being the villains. But here's the thing. What about Safi? Safi always gave me the vibe as a villain antagonist for some reason. I can see her being a villain antagonist for this. Now, we're gonna have where our hero antagonist and our villain antagonist are gonna meet somehow. And it's either gonna be one or two places where this showdown is going to go. It's either going to be back in Arcadia Bay, or it's going to take place in Michigan, in that hole of the void, where we have to go into the realm of the void. And however that final fight would be, we don't know, because you can say Max is kind of like our Doctor Strange of the group, right? I think it would make sense to have us go to Michigan. We know we have to go inside that hole, the void. I think that final showdown is going to be in the realm of the void, and I think that's when we're actually going to learn through the fight. As we're making our way there, even into the fighting process of the final showdown in the world of the void, and what it actually is, and how can we actually stop it. And I think once we stop it, I think we're going to get something big. I think we're going to get something to where the OG timeline's restored. And depending on your choices, those choices come restored, right? And along with that, everybody loses their power. But nobody forgets about their journey and the people who they have met, even in this encounter. But it's only going to be, I think, a specific target of people, those with abilities, who are going to be the ones to remember. And again, I think that's where maybe Deck 9 wants to go with their story, because we are getting a part 2 to Lost Records Bloom and Rage. I'm hoping for this, though, we get a part 2 of Sean and Daniel, because I would like more of their story. And now, even though I don't care for True Colors, but I think we need a part 2 with that as well. Now, if they don't follow through with this, then again, what is the point of really being introduced to this world? What is the point of really being introduced into people with abilities? What is really the point of being introduced of the void, right? If they don't. And for me, it's such a waste opportunity not to really follow something like that. But I enjoy with what we did get. So my next playthrough, I'm actually want to play the game called Mixtape. It's like a choice game like that. I don't think it has anybody with like abilities, but I hear a lot of people actually do enjoy that. So I can see myself, wanting to play that for you guys. But let me know what you guys think of this one. Where do you guys think what they might be going with Life is Strange? Or even if we're going to get like a team up. I don't know. I hope we do. Because again, let's ask ourselves, what's the point, again, if we're being introduced to all this and not have a big payoff, then what's the point? What's the point of emerging the timelines, and what's the point of having people who are dead back to life? With that being said, hey, I'm out. Peace.